The evolution of MMA. Mixed martial arts, or MMA, is a sport that has undergone a lot of change over the years. It has evolved from a niche activity to one of the most popular sports in the world. In this video, we will look at how MMA has changed over time and why it has become so popular. We will also discuss some of the controversies that have surrounded the sport in its history. So, let's get started. MMA has its origins in ancient Greece and Rome, where it was a popular form of entertainment. The first recorded MMA match took place in 23 BC between two Roman soldiers. MMA became popular among the nobility and upper classes in Europe in the centuries that followed. It was often used as a way to settle disputes between noble families. The modern history of MMA begins with the Gracie family, who were Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. They moved to the United States in early 20th century and began teaching their art to American students. One of these students was Bruce Lee, credited with helping to popularize martial arts in the West. In the late 18th century, pugilism, or bare-knuckle boxing, emerged as a popular sport in England. The first recorded English champions was James Vick, who defeated Ned Sutton in 1727. Pugilism became increasingly brutal and was often associated with gambling and crime. In the early 19th century, it was outlawed in many parts of England. The sport of MMA has its roots in the late 18th century with the emergence of pugilism, or bare-knuckle boxing. The first recorded English champion of this new sport was James Vick, who defeated Ned Sutton in 1727. Over time, pugilism became increasingly brutal and was often associated with gambling and crime. MMA started as a French sport with few rules and regulations. It was mostly unregulated and often brutal. There were few weight classes and no time limits. Fights typically ended when one fighter knocked out his opponent or submitted him. There were few safety precautions in the early days, and fighters often sustained serious injuries. As the sport grew in popularity, more rules and regulations were introduced. Weight classes and time limits were established. Safety precautions were put in place to protect fighters from serious injuries. Today, MMA is a regulated sport with strict rules and regulations. It is safe for participants and has become one of the most popular sports in the world. Mixed martial arts is a sport that has been around for centuries. It is a full-contact combat sport that combines various techniques from different fighting styles. MMA is regulated by state athletic commissions in the United States and Canada. In addition, professional organizations such as UFC, Bellator, and Invicta FC promote MMA events worldwide. MMA rules vary depending on the organizations and commissions overseeing the event. However, there are certain general rules that all fighters must follow. These include competitors must be aged 18 years or older. Fights must take place in a cage area or ring. Each fighter must weigh in at or below the weight limit for their division. Fighters must wear approved gloves and protective gear. No biting or eye gouging allowed. And grappling techniques such as chokeholds are allowed, but striking the throat is not. If you are interested in competing in MMA, be sure to do your research and find an organization or commissions that suits your needs. Once you have found a reputable organization, ensure you are familiar with the rules and regulations before stepping into the cage. You can succeed in this exciting sport with hard work and dedication. In 1993, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, was founded. The UFC is a mixed martial art promotion company and the world's largest of its kind. The first UFC event was held in Denver, Colorado in November of that year. It featured 8 fighters from different disciplines who fought in a tournament-style event. The winner was Royce Gracie, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. The UFC rapidly gained popularity and began to be shown on pay-per-view television. In the early 2000s, it has experienced a boom in popularity due to the emergence of stars such as Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. The sport has continued to grow in popularity since then and is now one of the most popular sports in the world. MMA has come a long way since its origins in ancient Greece and Rome. In the early days of mixed martial arts, there was no one governing body. Instead, each promoter could make up their own rules, which led to a lot of variations in how fights were conducted. For example, some promoters allowed things like eye gouging and biting, while others didn't. There was also a wide variety in weight classes used, with some promoters holding fights between competitors who weighed radically different amounts. It wasn't until 1993 that the first attempt at creating a unified set of rules was made. This came in the form of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC. The UFC sought to promote MMA as a legitimate sport, so they created more standardized set of rules that all fighters must adhere to. This helped give the sport a more professional image, and it soon began to grow in popularity. If you are interested in MMA, you might know about pankration and bartitsu. Pankration was a form of martial arts that was practiced in ancient Greece. It is thought to have originated from the island of Crete. The word pankration comes from the Greek words pan and kratos, meaning all and power, respectively. Pankration was a combination of boxing and wrestling, one of the most popular sports in ancient Greece. The rules of pankration were simple: anything goes. There were no weight classes or time limits, and the only way to win was to either knock out your opponent or force them to submit. This made pankration a very brutal sport and required a great deal of skill and technique. Pankration was first introduced to the Olympic Games in 680 BC, quickly becoming one of the most popular events. It remained a part of the Olympic until the late 19th century, when it was finally abolished. Despite its brutal nature, pankration was a popular sport in ancient Greece. It required a great deal of skill and technique and was one of the most popular sports in the Olympic Games. Bartitsu is a martial art developed in London in the late 1800s. It is a combination of jiu-jitsu, boxing, and cane fighting. Bartitsu was created as a self-defense system for Victorian gentlemen. The word Bartitsu comes from its founder, Edward William Barton Wright. Barton Wright was a British engineer who studied jiu-jitsu in Japan. He believed that the Japanese art of self-defense could be adapted to the Western lifestyle. Barton Wright taught his new form of self-defense at his Bartitsu club in London. The club became popular among the wealthy upper class. In addition, celebrities such as Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle were known to be fans of Bartitsu. The Bartitsu Club closed in 1902, but martial art has seen a resurgence in recent years. It is now practiced by people all over the world. Bartitsu is a great way to defend yourself without using weapons. In today's society, knowing how to protect yourself is more important than ever. If you are interested in learning Bartitsu, many resources are available online and in libraries. You can also find instructors who can teach you this unique martial art. Today, the UFC is still the biggest MMA promotion in the world, and they continue to set the standard of how MMA fights are conducted. While other promotions now have their rule sets, the UFC's influence can still be seen in all of them. Mixed martial arts has come a long way since its early days, showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon. It has undergone a huge transformation and is now one of the most popular sports in the world. A few names comes to mind when you think of MMA fighters. Brock Lesnar, for example, is a former UFC heavyweight champion. Randy Couture is another well-known fighter with multiple titles in different weight classes. You also have Georges St. Pierre, who is widely considered one of the greatest MMA fighters, and then there's Conor McGregor, who needs no introduction. These are just some of the famous MMA fighters out there. Who else do you think deserves to be on the list? Let us know in the comments. This video has looked at how MMA has changed over time and why it has become so popular. We have also discussed some of the controversies that have surrounded the sport in its history. Thanks for watching, and if you find this video interesting, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more upcoming videos.